What makes great marketing? We're going to talk about it on today's podcast, including this Jaguar ad that has really been at the top of social media's conversation. People giving lots of different opinions on it, lots of different takes on it. We're going to talk about what makes effective marketing and why Jaguar is being seen as really missing it with their latest ad. Hey, if you're a first-time listener to the show, my name's Blake Benz. I'm the host of the Good Advice Podcast, and you've come to the place to learn how to do business better. We talk about the actionable, practical things that actually work in business, none of that theoretical or fluff stuff. And I want to thank you for checking out the show today. For our long-term listeners and supporters of the show, thanks so much for continuing to support the podcast. Before we dive into today's episode, we have a word from one of the incredible businesses that sponsors the podcast. Check out this quick ad, and we'll be right back soon. Do you ever feel like your payment processor is robbing you blind? For some of us, it's not blind. We look at the amount of money that's going to our payment processor month after month, and a lot of times we ask ourselves, is there a better way? I'm making good money, yet so much of it isn't actually ending up in my pocket. In the world of payment processing, in many cases, it's a cashless world, so you have to have a payment processor you can really trust. I personally am a big fan of Brad Norwood, who's the owner of PrimePaymentsUSA.com. Brad's a business owner himself. He knows all the challenges that come with running a business. More importantly, he knows the value of an individual customer. See, some of these bigger businesses, they're all about scale. They're all about bringing in as many customers as possible. But do they know your name? Do they know your business? Do they know what's important to you? In many cases, the answer is no. And in worst cases, they're just looking to get as much money from every transaction that you work hard for, which really doesn't feel too good. So you got to reach out to Brad Norwood today and understand how he's doing business and why it can save you money month after month. More importantly, you might even ask him about his zero-fee payment processing that he's offering to a select few of people. Go to PrimePaymentsUSA.com and start putting the money that you worked hard for back into your pocket. So let's talk about what's going on in this Jaguar ad. And if you're out of the loop, I feel like anytime I talk about a topic of something on social media, I always want to preface it with like, hey, you're better off. Like when someone's like, oh, I haven't heard about that. I haven't been on social media. I didn't see that trending or I didn't see that headline. I'm typically like, hey, keep it that way. You're not missing anything. This is just like random meanderings of like everyone's opinion about Jaguar as of late. There are some really good insights we can get from this when we think about what makes great marketing and really some of the weird stuff, the weird decisions that Jaguar is making that all I'll say is I'm willing to be wrong, but I'm very curious to see how this affects their sales and really just the brand overall. Now, I will say that this ad has been out for a couple of weeks now. Man, I've seen all sorts of opinions on it. I was about to say, whenever these things happen, everyone has an opinion. And as I was about to say that, I was like, well, here I am now doing a podcast episode on it. But I have hesitated for what it's worth. Anytime there's like everyone talking about something, I'm usually like, well, pretty much every take's been given. There's really not much else for me to add. But the more I've thought about it, the more conversations I've had about it, including a recent conversation about it, the more I've been interested in this topic of conversation and have wanted to put up a quick episode to sort of break down some thoughts about marketing in general. Now, to get everyone on the same page, if you didn't see the Jaguar ad, I'm going to be real direct and real honest about this ad. And I'm going to do it I'm going to be as straightforward as I can about it without trying to be mean about it or anything like that. So this is nothing really against Jaguar as a whole. This is nothing against the actors and actresses that were in the ad. I'm disinterested in all that stuff. I'm also disinterested in any political discourse about the ad. If you know me, I really don't care about politics. Don't really follow politics. So I don't wear that hat when I have this kind of conversation. So really, I'm not trying to make any kind of claim about Jaguar's political affiliation. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But getting everyone on the same page, here is what the ad is. Jaguar is a luxury car brand. They put out a 30-second ad last week or the week before, and it is 7 or 8 different characters in this sort of futuristic sci-fi setting. Neon colors, bright colors. They're all wearing kind of what you'd expect to see at like a. Have you ever seen those memes of the people who were on the like runway models, where when it's meme, they're like wearing a trash bag and people are like, wow, that's so cool. It's kind of like that. They're wearing, it looks like one guy is wearing what looks kind of like a donut floaty and like a leotard over that. There's just all sorts of interesting outfits being worn here. And everyone is pretty intently androgynous in the sense of there's no real clear gender. Again, not an issue. I don't have an issue if there's men or women in an ad, but it's just a very weird, odd thing. It's a very intentional, artistic decision for this ad of let's have people wearing these odd outfits. Let's make them as gender neutral as possible. And let's put it in sort of like this sci-fi setting. The final shot of this is they're sitting in kind of like this barren landscape with like moon rocks all around and like this high, bright pink light setting over it. I saw this ad, and again, I'm going to be real level with you. I'm going to level with you, be real honest with you. Sometimes I mix my words together, but I'm going to be real honest with you. This was a weird ad. This was a weird ad. It kind of reminds me of, you ever have that feeling whenever you look at like the Golden Globe winner or like the Academy Award, like Best Picture, and then you actually go and watch the movie and you're kind of like, I don't know if I get it. Like, I don't know. This is very artsy. This is just, I don't know. And granted, there's been plenty of movies that have won awards that were great movies. But sometimes during like movie award season, I feel like I watch the movie and I'm like, man, I think I have low standards, I guess. Like, I'm just good with Bruce Willis and The Rock and whoever, breaking stuff, some pretty silly humor. I mean, I feel like I like a good movie, but definitely it's during award season where I look at some of the movies and I'm like, okay, a couple of those were incredible. Some of those were weird, where I'm like, Hollywood, what's up with your tastes? Like, this is a little weird. This is how I felt with this ad. I watched this ad and I thought, weird. That's the clearest word that came to mind. I thought, this is weird. I thought there was not a car in the ad. There were these people walking around, expressionless, and you're getting fairly generic marketing, creative terms that are coming across the screen in boldface type. Things like copy nothing, be original, like just they're very meaningless phrases. And I would even call them chat GPT'd phrases. I'm not saying there's not much writing in this. I'm not saying they necessarily did chat GPT with it, but they're expressions that have become so mainstream that they've lost their meaning, really. They're overused. Well, what's funny about this ad is so many people then began commenting and writing articles and talking about this Jaguar ad. And I read a lot about this, and I want to be really clear. Again, I'm pretty indifferent on where Jaguar goes from here. I have no, dog in the fight, no skin in the game. I'm never going to buy a luxury car. Have no care for those kinds of things. So purely where I'm coming from is from a marketing perspective. Now, there's a lot of nuance to marketing. There's a lot of nuance to effective marketing. There's quite a bit of complexity when it comes to the different ways that you can get people to engage with your brand. And to give some highlighting to the complexity of all these things, when we talk about marketing, we're not just talking about you pay for a billboard or you buy a digital ad, or you, for you really small business people out there who you boost a post. I love running into like new entrepreneurs and we're talking about what they're doing. They're like, yeah, I boosted a post the other day. you can know that does nothing for you. Just by the way, it's not doing anything for you. Um, there's all these different things you can do in that regard. When we talk about marketing, those are all like macro actions, but they don't give attention to all the intricacies that are involved in marketing. Pattern interruption. I think a good example of pattern interruption would be the person who holds the lapel microphone or puts the lapel microphone somewhere that's not on their chest, like on the bill of their hat or what have you. And so you catch it thinking like that looks goofy, or they're holding it and you're thinking that's weird. Well, now everyone does the hold the lapel mic thing. So it's lost its umph. It's lost its meaning as a pattern interrupter because now we're used to it. Misspelling words in your copy. That's a very common, I don't want to say common, like everyone's purposely misspelling words, but there are people who they'll do misspells intentionally because they know it'll draw engagement and keyboard warriors and oops, you spelled this wrong, or they at least take another look at the ad. A bigger example of that would be a popular ad that I saw a couple of weeks ago where it was a guy filming himself who was like, hey, yeah, we paid for this big billboard near Times Square. And I think it was near Times Square. I can't remember actually. He's like, we paid for this big billboard and I'm on my way to see it. And he looks up and it's the lorem ipsum, gibberish that it's like the default text on whenever you're building like a web page, or like when it's the auto-filled text that gets put in, if you know what I'm talking about. It's not Latin, but it looks like Latin. Or maybe it is actually Latin. I have no idea. Well, he looks up and he sees it, and it's that he clearly did not replace that with the text of the ad. You can know that that's all fake. None of that is real. That whole thing is part of the ad. It's pulling on the intricacy of making a mistake and a typo or what have you, and using that to interrupt the pattern of someone scrolling through social media. So I'm not going to list all the different things that happen in the world of marketing. And frankly, I don't have the time or the enormous experience that many people in marketing do have that can speak to some of these things better than I can. But all this to say, despite all of this stuff, the general concept behind marketing is to get people to see and engage with your brand. Now, part of this is you're not trying to get everyone to engage with your brand. You're trying to get people who are your buyers to engage with your brand. So when you see think about a truck commercial, man, there's just a certain type of dude on a truck commercial, or there's a certain type of narrator on a truck commercial. It's just you don't see certain things on a truck commercial. You see typically a guy who's like hauling lumber, or he's hauling a pile of bricks. These people are carrying all sorts of heavy stuff. They're going through, a dirt road, mud flying. They are advertising to a very particular type of person, which is the buyer of their truck. They're not advertising to the random mom who's feeding her kids in the morning, thinking about what she's going to be doing that day. It's a totally different demographic. Now, does it mean that women don't buy trucks? Absolutely not. But this company has made an intentional decision. If I'm going to pay for an advertisement, if I'm going to pay for a commercial, I'm going to go after the low-hanging fruit, our most likely buyer. And for every product out there, there is a typical buyer for that product. For Jaguar and for luxury cars in general, let's be real. It's people with money. They are willing to spend a lot of money on a nice vehicle. It's probably not the everyday person. It's probably not a blue collar, hourly employee. It just probably isn't that. So, and here's the deal. It's not me either. So full disclaimer, here I am talking about marketing and a particular marketing ad. Maybe I just didn't get it. Maybe it's just not for me. Maybe there's someone out there who has, buckets of money, piles of cash, who saw that ad, and it's the Leonardo DiCaprio. What's that movie he's in with Brad Pitt? where I think it's Brad Pitt, where he's like leaning back in his chair and he sees it on the TV and he's like, that right there, maybe there's someone out there with tons of cash who saw the ad who thought, that's me. I'm going to buy this car now. I'm going to guess that's pretty unlikely. Just knowing brands in general, I'm going to guess that's probably not the case. So why then did Jaguar make this ad? I think that there are a couple of different possibilities. I think one, they're off their rocker is one possibility. I think companies get so creative and they get so I don't want to keep saying weird, but just like the ideas get so far fetched that we lose the tangibility of and the practicality of remembering who is our buyer. And I remember there were some ads that they did a while ago with Tom Hiddleston, who's Loki, with Ben Kingsley, just these terrific actors who are in tuxedos and they're driving the car. Like those are ads designed around, they've thought about practically who is our buyer. Again, it's not all their buyers, but I look at this ad and I think, who is this for? Who is this ad for? Like I look at the characters in the ad and I think, "Ooh, I don't, I never have seen someone who dresses like this driving a Jaguar. So who's the customer for this?" And I think this is one of the biggest misses in the marketing of Jaguar is we're forgetting one of the central points of your effective marketing. Man, you got to be locked in on who your buyer is. Remembering that good marketing isn't what you'd want to see or what you care about. Good marketing is understanding who your buyer is and what they care about. So a good example of this, you think about other car commercials. I talked about the mom who's feeding her kids and she rushes out the door and she's got to take her kids to school. And, then later in the day, she's picking her kids up from school and she's waiting in that forever long line. And she's, she's fiddling with a couple of the buttons. One's like the automatic door for the minivan. And another one is like she presses a button and like music, surround sound in the car begins to play this really refreshing, fun music as she's waiting in the car. And then the kids jump in and mom, how was your day? And it's just really, no one's screaming or fighting. It's just like perfection. It's awesome. And then the ad is for this minivan. So it's really less about the car, but the creator of that car has understood who is our buyer and what speaks to them. It's not about what they want. It's about what their buyer cares about. And the more you can understand this and apply it to your own marketing, the better off you'll be. For example, a lot of people who sell products online, whenever they market those products, they talk a lot about all the features and the feature stack, the bullet points of here's all the things it has. None of that really matters to your customer. Think about the last time you bought a TV. Now, if you're a techie, you might have nerded out on some of the details around it. But you don't really care how many pixels or how many, I haven't bought a TV in forever, so I'm going to butcher this example, but you care about how many inches it is. It's a 65 inch, it's a 70 inch, what have you. Beyond that, you really don't know what a lot of it means. Now, these companies they know that the more complex you make some of these things sound, the more sophisticated and better it seems. But you check out a $300 TV versus a $1,500 TV, and that feature list is going to look really similar. Only people who really know are going to know the difference. So it's really not about all of these great things about your product. Good marketing does a great job of connecting with the buyer, and it helps them see the solution in firsthand. Think about the mom waiting in line. It's boring. It's painful. Kids are arguing. They're arguing over not having enough room. Like he's in my seat. She's in my seat. They're kicking me, what have you. And then you show this commercial where plenty of leg room, music playing. It's fun. The car's easy to drive. Again, it's not about the car. It's about showing here's the outcome when you drive this car. That's what effective marketing does. Again, I don't see that in the Jaguar ad. I see a very weird ad, a very, very weird ad. The other thing I'll say about this that I think is kind of interesting is anytime you have this kind of conversation, there's always people who come out of the woodwork who talk about how genius these companies are. These are the people who say things like, clearly the rest of you don't understand great marketing because here, Jaguar has everyone talking about their brand. They're geniuses. That's what marketing should do. It should get everyone talking about your business. And I understand that concept in general. However, we have not seen examples of that in real life where bad marketing is still effective marketing. Now, I have seen bad marketing that's unrelated to the customer or product. I think about what was that? Oh man, I'm gonna butcher it. Snoop Dogg did that little portable grill, like a fire pit thing, and then there was a headline that the CEO had been fired because the sales weren't meaningful enough to have hired Snoop Dogg. Well, then there was a conversation about the headline of the CEO being fired actually generated so much buzz around the product that sales took off. That's an example of a bad situation, but it's unrelated to the product itself. It's unrelated to you, the buyer. It's related to something about the company that then generates buzz and gets people talking about it. It's probably the one example I can think of where this actually happens. Every other example, I can't think of one example where genuinely a bad thing created positive momentum for the business. Especially bearing in mind that in today's social media world, people will review bomb your business from all over. You'll get one bad headline. Man, there was a dealership out of Little Rock where someone on Reddit posted about how the car dealer drove their car around. They had their own like luxury car they were buying. Well, supposedly, according to this Reddit post, the car dealer drove their car around and then tried to sell it the next day. And the person buying it was upset because it was like, hey, you already put miles on my car. What's up with that? Well, they were upset. They posted on Reddit about it. And this is for Little Rock, Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, that dealership got inundated with negative reviews from people from all over. So you can never misunderstand the reach of social media, which by the way is kind of a scary, good reminder for all of us. You have to treat every customer well. You have to be intentional. You have to be quick to say sorry, to take accountability, all these things that I hold myself accountable to and hope that I don't make a stupid, silly decision that gets tons of people saying mean things about me. But going back to my point though, another example I think of with negative press, do you guys remember the Pepsi commercial where Kylie Jenner, it was maybe in like 2017, 2018, where it's like riots happening and there's like police and riot gear who are lining up. And then Kylie Jenner walks out with the Pepsi can and takes a sip of it and then laughs and smiles at the riot guard who then like takes a sip and like, the world's a better place. We solved racism or whatever it was. This was a really bad commercial. It was so bad that Kylie Jenner had to apologize. Pepsi had to apologize. They had to pull the ad entirely. And it was a pretty good example of why companies should not handle their own internal marketing, but why it's valuable to have some of these outside perspectives. This was undeniably a bad ad. Yet I don't see people looking at that and saying, hey, you know what? That's great marketing. People are talking about it. Pepsi, big brain. They got everyone talking about it. No, because we understand that not bad marketing is part of all marketing and all attention is good attention. That's not true. There is good marketing and there is bad marketing. And here's what I'll say from my armchair expertise with Jaguar, this is not good marketing. And from the major brand designers that I follow, which there's a couple, there's one that's been on my podcast, David Breyer, who has written a couple of incredible brand books, just incredibly well known as one of the go-to branding experts. And then I've seen some local people who are, that's their profession is brand and, designing your all the marketing initiatives that come from your brand. And they've been unanimous as well of just like, it's more of this weirdness, and really more of the same. There was one guy that I follow who he posted, and actually I think he got this from somewhere else because I've seen it posted a few times now, of like how all companies, large corporations, are becoming more and more safe. And you can see how their logos have changed over the years. And all these logos that were intently different from one another now all have a similar boring boldface type to them, because it's risk-free. And we live in a world where companies love to avoid risk. They love safe decisions. They love remakes because remakes sell. And they are not fans of risk-taking. Now, to Jaguar's credit, they're taking a risk. So I guess I should give them a little bit of a nod, though their logo has become more same. It's that bold-face type, no Jaguar on the, that was part of the iconic logo before. But all I'll say is, when you're a small business owner, you can afford to take some risks. You can afford to make some big decisions. And beyond all else, whether you know a lot about marketing or not, keep yourself close to your customer, understanding who your buyer is and what they care about, and then design your marketing around them. By the way, I think Dude Wipes does a great job of this. I think they're funny. I think they talk directly to their ideal customer, and they've just nailed it. Okay, that's today's episode of the Good Advice Podcast. Thanks for tuning in today. If you're a first-time listener, what the heck are you waiting on? Click that subscribe or follow button so you can keep getting good advice wherever you are. Don't forget, if you want to support the podcast, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/goodadvice. Or if you're a business, you want to advertise on the show, you can email me, blake@goodadvicecoaching.com. Hey, I appreciate you. That's today's good advice. See you later.